Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this lecture in stormwater management. Today we will explore the importance of managing stormwater in urban and natural settings, along with the objectives of detention systems and the key environmental and regulatory considerations involved. Stormwater management is a critical component of sustainable development and infrastructure resilience. Um, Stormwater management plays a vital role in urban and environmental planning. First, it addresses flood mitigation by managing excessive rainfall to prevent flooding, which can damage property, disrupt infrastructure, and threaten public safety. Proper system help reduce peak runoff rates and prevent the overloading of drainage networks. Second, is it is essential for water quality protection as runoff carries pollutants like sediments, oils, metals, and nutrients in the natural water bodies. Effective stormwater management traps and treats these pollutants, preserving the health of aquatic systems. Urbanization poses unique challenges due to the increase in impervious surface such as roads and buildings, which reduce natural water infiltration and increase runoff volumes. Stormwater systems counteract these effects and mimicking natural processes. Additionally, they enhance infrastructure longevity by reducing erosion and sedimentation, which helps protect the integrity of roads, bridges, and drainage channels, ensuring they last longer. So next is the detention systems. A key part of urban stormwater management serves several important objectives. One primary goal is a peak flow reduction, achieved by temporarily storing stormwater and releasing it slowly to minimize stress on downstream drainage systems. These systems also manage runoff volume, maintaining hydrological stability amidst the development. Another objective is pollution control, as facilities like wetlands and constructed wetlands capture sediments and nutrients, improving water quality before discharge. And beyond functional benefits, detention systems offer habitat and aesthetic advantages. Well-designed systems such as wet ponds can provide habitat for wildlife, recreational areas for communities, and aesthetic enhancement to urban spaces. Lastly, these systems support urban growth by ensuring compliance with development standards, meeting local and national regulations for sustainable stormwater management. Next is environmental and regulatory considerations also play a significant role in stormwater management. From an environmental perspective, these systems contribute to erosion control by reducing flow velocity, which protects riverbanks and natural landscapes. They support groundwater recharge through infiltration systems that promote natural percolation, replenishing underground water reserves. Moreover, facilities designed with ecological sensitivity help maintaining ecosystem balance by protecting aquatic and riparian habitats. On the regulatory side, stormwater management ensures compliance with standards for discharge rates and water quality, aligning project with public safety and environmental goals. Managing plans often require detailed calculations for detention pond sizing, outlet design, and pollution mitigation measures. Sustainability is another critical aspect of stormwater system design. Incorporating green infrastructure elements like biowales, rain garden, and permeable pavements, enhancing efficiency and supports environmentally friendly practices. Applying low impact development or LID principles, integrating stormwater solutions into urban landscape, minimizing environmental disruption while creating harmonious sustainable design. Yes. So that will be all for my part. Again, this is Mark, and thank you.
So for stormwater retention versus detention, first is what are retention and detention systems? Retention systems hold stormwater permanently, so the water stays in one place. like a pond, and either soaks into the ground or evaporates over time. Detention systems, on the other hand, temporarily store water, so they slowly release it, usually within hours or days, to prevent flooding. So the key difference is that retention systems are meant to keep water, while detention systems are just holding it for a short time. Next, let's look at why we use these systems and how they work. For retention systems, its purpose is to reduce stormwater runoff, recharge groundwater, and even create green spaces. So they work by capturing rainwater, which then either soaks into the ground or gets reused, like for watering plants. For detention systems, these are mainly used to prevent flooding. They temporarily hold water during heavy rain and then slowly release it so it doesn't overwhelm drains. They work using basins or underground tanks that have special pipes or outlets to control the flow of water. So retention focuses on soaking up water, while detention focuses on controlling its flow. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of each system. For retention systems, so these are great because they improve water quality by filtering pollutants, help refill groundwater, and provide habitats for wildlife. However, they need a lot of space and can create problems like mosquitoes if the water isn't managed properly. For detention systems, these are excellent for preventing floods and handling large amounts of rain in cities, but they don't recharge groundwater or remove pollutants as effectively as retention systems. Plus, their outlets needs regular cleaning to work properly. Finally, let's look at where you might use each system. First is imagine a residential area with sandy soil where the goal is to refill groundwater. A retention system like a pond or rain garden would be perfect here because it lets water soak into the ground. Second is now picture a busy city with flooding problems after heavy rain. A detention system like an underground tank would work better because it can hold and slowly release the water without needing extra space for soaking. So retention is better for recharging groundwater, while detention is ideal for preventing floods in urban areas.
Types of stormwater detention facilities. So, detention strategies are integral to modern stormwater management, aiming to control the rate and timing of stormwater runoff rather than the total volume. So, these strategies help mitigate flooding, reduce downstream erosion, and in some cases, it improved water quality. So stormwater detention facilities are designed to temporarily store runoff during and after storm events to reduce peak discharge rates and mitigate flooding. So they are essential components of modern stormwater management systems and aim to delay the flow of runoff to downstream areas, improve water quality through sedimentation and pollutant removal, and also it protect infrastructure by reducing erosion and flow velocity. The common facility types of stormwater detention: the dry ponds, wet ponds, and underground storage systems. So first, the dry ponds or detention basins. So they are temporary storage basins that remain dry during non-storm periods. So they detain runoff and release it at a controlled rate. Next is the wet ponds or retention basins. So, basins that maintain a permanent pool of water and allow additional storage during storm events. And lastly, the underground storage systems. So, they are subsurface storage structures. Examples, kanang tanks, vaults, or pipe systems designed to detain stormwater runoff in urbanized or space-constrained areas. There are factors influencing facility selection, and these are the site characteristics, the stormwater management objectives, the cost considerations, the regulatory and environmental factors, and the static and community preferences. So, in site characteristics, It involves land availability, the soil type and infiltration capacity, as well as the topography and slope. In stormwater management objectives, the flood control requirements, and water quality improvement goals. In cost considerations, the initial construction cost and long term maintenance expenses. In regulatory and environmental factors, the compliance with local stormwater ordinances and environmental sensitivity of the area, and also the aesthetic and community preferences, the desire for recreational or visual amenities, and minimization of disruptions to existing land use.
Now, we're going to talk about the dry pans and wet pans. So first, I'm going to discuss to you the design and functionality difference of dry pans and wet pans. So first is the dry pans. So dry pans is also known as detention basins. So it is designed to temporarily store stormwater runoff and release it slowly over time to prevent flooding. They remain dry between storm events with no permanent pool of water. While its function is it focus on flood control by reducing peak runoff rates, they are not designed for long-term water retention or treatment but may be provided limited sediment settling during temporary water retention. While on the other hand, wet pans are also known as retention basins. It is designed to maintain a permanent pool of water supplemented by additional storage for stormwater runoff during rain events. While its function offer both flood control and water quality treatment, the permanent pool allows sediments to settle and support biological activity to break down pollutants. So next, we're going to talk about the maintenance requirements for dry pans and wet pans. So first is the inspection frequency for dry pans. Periodic inspection to check for sediment accumulation, vegetation growth, and outlet blockage. Its maintenance task is to remove sediment and debris from basin and outlet structure, mowing vegetation and erosion repair. Since dry pans do not retain water, invasive vegetation can spread easily, requiring regular cleaning, which is quite challenging during maintenance. The wet pans, on the other hand, its frequency in inspection is more frequent than dry pans due to the presence of standing water and biological components. Maintenance tasks includes managing algae growth, maintaining aquatic vegetation, removing accumulation of sediments, and ensuring outlets are not clogged. Challenges includes maintaining the ecological balance of the pond and preventing excessive mosquito breeding. Next is we're going to talk about the rule in water quality enhancement of dry pans and wet pans. So, dry pans provide limited water quality improvement. Sediments and some particulate pollutants settle during temporary storage. Lack of permanent pool limits their ability to treat dissolved nutrients or support biological pollutant breakdown. While wet pans, on the other hand, significantly enhance water quality by providing longer detention times. The permanent pool allow for sedimentation, nutrients uptake by aquatic plants, and breakdown of pollutants through microbial activity. Effect in removing suspended solids, nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, and other contaminants. Next is we're going to discuss the key difference of dry pans and wet pans in terms of habitat creations and environmental considerations. So, dry pans offer minimal habitat value as they remain dry most of the time. Vegetation around the pond may provide some habitat for terrestrial species, but overall ecological benefits are limited. While wet ponds, on the other hand, it creates aquatic and semi-aquatic habitats that support a variety of species, including birds, amphibians, and aquatic organisms. It can serve as a local ecological hotspot, enhancing biodiversity if designed and maintained properly. It also requires careful maintenance to balance habitat creation with potential issues like invasive species and water quality degradation.
For number 5, above ground versus underground detention system. So in this topic, I will discuss the difference between above ground and underground detention system, focusing on their advantages, disadvantages, and site consideration for facility placement. This system play a crucial role in managing stormwater, preventing flooding, and maintaining sustainable infrastructure. So let's begin by understanding the two types of detention system. First is the above ground detention system. These systems are visible, surface level structures designed to temporarily store stormwater, so they often take the form of detention basins, ponds, or open reservoir. Water collects in this structure is slowly released to the natural waterways or stormwater system, preventing sudden surges in water flow. So example ani is ang detention ponds, dry basins, or multi-use fields that serves as stormwater storage during rain. Then next is the underground detention system. In contrast, so these are hidden below the ground using tanks, pipes, or vaults to store stormwater. This system regulate water release while keeping the surface area available for the uses. So example of this is the underground concrete tanks, modular plastic system, or pipe network placed beneath the parking lots or buildings. For the advantages of the above ground detention system, first of all, it is cost effective when it comes to construction. So generally cheaper to construct because they require less excavation and have simpler structural requirements. So since naraman siya sa naman siya sa above, so dili na ta mag-excavate. So less ang iyang cost. Then ease of maintenance. So since they are visible and accessible, cleaning and inspection and repairs are straightforward and less cost. Then for number three, dual use of space. So this system can serve as multi-purpose, such as being designed as parks or sports fields when not actively detaining stormwater. So magamit po siya no sa uban nga pagagamiton sa space. The next is the visual monitoring. So since makita raman siya, so pag nay mga erosion or blockage during sa ato ang detention system, so ma-detect ra nato, then makahatag ra pud tag anang resolve or solution for the problem that we may encounter. Then next is the faster construction. So this system require less time to build compared to underground system, making them practical for projects with tight deadlines. So faster construction kay nara man siya sa ibabaw, dili na ta kailangan mag excavate o mag-install pa. So that's why nga dali ra pud siya when it comes to constructing. Then unsay ang mga disadvantages sa above ground detention system. So above ground system occupy significant surface area which can limit their application in densely developed areas. So pag nanata sa mga developed areas, so dapat ma-make use na to atong space. So since kaning above ground detention mag-use man siya space, so dili siya recommended for nga sa above ground na to siya ibutang. It is because makakuha man siya space. The next is the appearance. So large basins or ponds can be visually unappealing, especially in urban areas, landscape environment. So since makita na to siya na tendency nga when it comes to aesthetic niya no, dili siya appealing sa ato. So mas na may uban nga mo prepare gyud og katong minimalist din para pud magamit nato ang katong ang area dito pag wala to siya no, kung nasya sa underground. So ma-discuss na po na later on. Then safety concern. So open basin pose risk to humans and animals including potential drowning hazards. So since naman siya sa surface, so naging mga safety concern when it comes to sa ato mga tao nga magamit ato. Then for the number 4, evaporation loss. So ka-expose man siya sa surface, amount of water due to nay mga amount sa water due to evaporation no, particularly sa mga init ng mga lugar, so maka-cause gid siya evaporation, reducing the system's efficiency. So that's why nga na siya evaporation loss. Then for the underground detention system nga advantages natay efficient land use. So this system free up surface space, making them ideal for urban areas or location with high land value. So masabtan naman siya no sa iyang explanation. So since naman siya sa underground, so katong nasa ibabaw niya nga kuan, pwede pa nato maggamit sa uban pa niya nga pwede nato magamitan nato nga surface space. Then when it comes to appearance, so they appear minimal or dili gyud nato sila makita since naman sila sa undergrounds, and ma-preserve pud niya ang visual appeal sa katong site or sa space. Then for the number 3, multifunctional design. So The space above an underground system can be used for building, parking lots, and landscaping. So, pwede pa nato siya magamit sa uban pang building. Then number four is the environmental protection. So this system reduces evaporation and help control polluted runoff, contributing to environmental sustainability. Then for the disadvantage of the underground detention system, first is high construction cost. Why? Because underground system are more expensive to design because it install na installation may tabo, natay mga extensive excavation, then natay mga specialized materials nga gamiton para sa pag-install. So that's why nga higher construction cost siya. Then for number two is challenging in maintenance. So since dili ta dali-dali maka-access, so dili na to siya dili ta dali maka kuan og inspection and cleaning sa atuang detention system. Then na tendency nga magamit pa tag complex and specialized nga mga equipment para sa paghinlog sa pag-inspect ato nga mga detention system. Then for number three, limited visibility. So kay dili man nato makita no visually kay naman siya sa underground. So problem like blockage or structural damage are harder to detect without regular monitoring. So lisod nato siya ma-detect ang katong mga problema nga na dito sa ilalom. Then number four, flooding risk. So pag dili siya properly maintained o it can become overwhelmed during heavy rainfall leading to backups and failure sa atuang detention system. Then for the site consideration for facility placement, so the selection between above ground or underground detention system depend on the several site specific factors. So this first is the land availability. So above ground system require large areas and are better for rural or suburban spaces, while underground systems are ideal for urban sites with limited surface spaces. So pag nagtipid ka sa space, so ang much recommended nimo nga gamiton is katong underground since space niya is pwede pa nimo siya magamit sa uban. The next is the topography. So above ground system work well in flat or natural depressed areas, while underground systems are better for steep or heavily developed locations. So katong above ground mas pabor siya pag ibutang nato siya sa flat nga surface area kay flat to siya, dali ra siya ikon plus star. Then for number three, soil condition. So need po nato i-check ang yang soil condition. Poor soil conditions such as instability or high water table can increase the construction cost for both system. Underground systems are particularly sensitive to these issues. So since ang underground ato man siyang ilubong, so need yun po nato makuan. So in every structure nga atong pagabuhaton, need biya yun nato nga i-check ang soil condition niya para natay idea kung saan nato siya pag-install o pagbutang dito. Then number four is the proximity to existing infrastructure. Underground systems are more suitable for urban environment with extensive infrastructure, while above ground systems are better suited for less developed areas. So why? Because underground system pag naka sa mga naka sa mga urban nga areas make use nimo ang yang space, while sa above ground suited lang na siya sa katong mga less developed pa nga mga areas kay napamang kay more space nga pwede nimo i-allocate or pwede nimo dito ibutang ang katong detention. That's why sa above ground system suited siya sa katong less developed areas. Number five, environmental impact. So above ground system can integrate with green infrastructure such as rain gardens or wetlands. So katong mga nasa above ground, so katong detention nato pwede pa nato magamit sa rain sa atong gardens or sa mga wetlands. Then sa katong underground system, ma-minimize niya ang disruption sa natural habitat since naman siya sa underground. Then number six is the regulatory compliance. So local regulation may dictate the requirement detention volume, placement, or whether dual purpose design if necessary. So katong kuan natin mga regulatory nga compliance ani when it comes sa pagkuan. So dapat maka-follow ta tong mga design criteria sa buhat ani no. Kay naman dito ang standards, designs and kung ga-follow ba siya sa regulatory then pag napoy mga local nga mga regulation when it comes to that so need po nato siya i-comply. Then number 7, cost and budget. So pag tight ang imong budget, so it is preferable nga imong i-install is the above ground system due to their lower cost while underground system are justified in premium locations. So katong underground system when it comes to cost and budgeting so high cost gyud siya kay napamantay mga installation, excavation nga pagabuhaton. Then for the last part is the maintenance access. So na-discuss na ni Gayna no. So above ground systems are easier to maintain while underground system need well-placed access points such as manholes for proper inspection and cleaning. So katong mga nasa above system dali raman siya makuan kay makita raman nato siya largo while ang katong kuan mag-need gyud tag mga manholes nga pangbutang para nay space sa atong pag-inspection o cleaning nga pagabuhaton sa atong underground detention system nga ato ang ibutang.
So let's proceed to chapter 6, stormwater runoff modeling. So stormwater runoff modeling plays a crucial role in understanding, predicting, and managing the movement of water during and after the rainfall events, particularly in the urban areas where impervious surface dominates. So this report will dive into the purpose and importance of runoff modeling. It will also provide an overview of the commonly used models in detention design. It also outlines the key inputs and outputs and explore their applications in urban land use scenarios. So, unsa ang purpose and importance of stormwater runoff modeling? So, stormwater runoff modeling is an essential aspect of urban planning, flood prevention, and sustainable water resource management. So, its primary purposes includes first is the flood prediction and mitigation. So it helps in modeling and predicting stormwater flow patterns, allowing for the identification and mitigation of flooding risk in urban and suburban environments. Second is infrastructure design. So it supports the design of stormwater detention systems, culverts, and other hydraulic structures to handle peak flows effectively. So third is the environmental protection. Runoff model helps reduce the negative effects of stormwater, such as erosion and pollution. And last is for policy compliance. So models ensures that urban developments aligns with the local state stormwater management regulations. Common models used in detention design. So several hydrological models are commonly used to stimulate runoff and design detention facilities. Each model varies in complexity and application, so the following are some of the widely used tools. So first is the HMS or the Hydrologic Engineering Center's hydrologic modeling system. So it was developed by the US Army Corps of Engineers. So this model simulates the precipitation runoff process in watershed system. It is suitable for both rural and urban setting. So second is the SWMM or the Stormwater Management Model. So it was developed by the US Environmental Protection Agency or the EPA. This model provides a dynamic rainfall runoff simulation, particularly for urban areas. It incorporates urban infrastructure impacts such as sewer system on runoff. Third is the TR55 or the Technical Release 55, a simplified hydrology tool for small watersheds, focusing on peak discharge calculations and detention design. It is commonly used in the preliminary planning phases. Last is the XPSWMM. This is an advanced model which integrates 1D and 2D hydrodynamic simulations to analyze both surface and subsurface flows. It is particularly useful for detailed urban stormwater management. Inputs and outputs of runoff models. Inputs. It is used to stimulate stormwater runoff accurately. Models require various inputs such as a meteorological data. So it is a rainfall intensity, duration, and spatial distribution. Second is the catchment characteristics, such as the land use and land cover. Example is an impervious areas or vegetation areas, topography, and slope. It also includes the soil type and infiltration capacity. And last is the hydraulic infrastructure data. So it informs about the existing drainage system, detention basins, and discharge outlets. So below is the outputs we can generate by using runoff models. So first is the runoff volume. It is the total volume of the water generated during the storm events. Second is the peak discharge. It is the maximum flow rate at a specific point, which is crucial for the detention and outlet design. Third is the hydrograph. It is a time series graph showing flow rates over the course of storm events, indicating the timing and magnitude of peak events. So flow extents. So it is a map that identifies areas prone to flooding under various scenarios. Applications of models to urban land use scenarios. So urban areas present unique challenges for stormwater runoff due to its impervious surfaces, such as the roads, rooftops, and parking lots. These surfaces significantly alter the natural hydrological process, increasing the runoff volumes and peak flow rates while reducing the infiltration and groundwater discharge. Below are some of the key applications. First is detention basin designs. So models like SWMM and HEC-HMS simulates runoff to determine the optimal sizes and configurations of the detention basins. So this basin stores excess water during peak flows and release it gradually to prevent downstream flooding. Second is the flood risk assessment. So advanced models like XPS WMM are used to predict urban flood risk by simulating stormwater flow pathways and identifying vulnerable areas. So this aids in developing mitigation strategies such as raised in infrastructure or improved drainage system. Third is the green infrastructure planning. So models evaluate the effectiveness of green infrastructure solutions, including rain gardens, permeable pavements, and bioswales, in reducing runoff and improving water quality. So fourth and last is the scenario analysis for land use changes. Runoff models predict how urban expansion, rezoning, or land use modifications might affect hydrological process. So this analysis helps plans addition stormwater management measures to accommodate new developments.
Hi, I am Sarah A. Zuleta and I am tasked to discuss the basic considerations in the design of detention ponds. First, we have the sizing and volume requirements. To determine the appropriate size for a detention pond, engineers rely on hydrologic models to simulate runoff from the watershed. Factors such as rainfall patterns and land use are considered. The goal is to ensure the pond can accommodate peak flows while discharging water at a manageable rate. It is also recommended to use stream flow data, daily flow or discharge, of the identified gauging stations under the National Hydrologic Data Collection Program or NHDCP, which are published in Stream Flow Management Systems or STREAM's website. The size of the basin will be governed by the volume of flow generated from the upstream catchment and the amount of retardation required for the flow. It is preferable to utilize a computer model to size the basin. to properly simulate the hydraulic conditions at the outlet. Actual dimensions shall be based on the hydraulic, stability, structural analysis, and other analysis such as seepage, settlement, and others as deemed necessary. Then we have to consider the outlet control structures and flow regulation. Outlet control structures are the heart of detention ponds, regulating the outflow to prevent excessive discharge rates. They are designed based on downstream channel capacity and include features to manage low and high flows effectively. The outlet structure of a basin should be located at the low point, designed to restrict outflow under various storm conditions and protected against debris blockages to ensure safety. The intake to the detention basin outlet should minimize safety risks, and pipes should have secure joints, sealed lifting holes, and appropriate bedding and seepage controls, with additional measures applied to downstream systems if pressurization occurs. Another design consideration would be the water quality features. Incorporating water quality features ensures detention ponds are not just flood control measures, but also tools for improving the quality of stormwater discharge, protecting downstream ecosystems from sediment and pollutants. And lastly, the consideration of regulatory and environmental constraints. Regulatory and environmental considerations play a vital role in the design process. Detention ponds must comply with legal standards while minimizing environmental impacts and integrating seamlessly with community landscapes. The design of small dams and detention basins must balance environmental and social factors to comply with relevant legislation and promote sustainability and equity. Environmentally, construction must adhere to the National Integrated Protected Area System or NEPAS Act, Republic Act No. 7586 as amended by Republic Act No. 11038, and include a comprehensive environmental impact assessment as required by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to identify and mitigate potential adverse effects on local ecosystems. Socially, compliance with the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act or IPRA of 1997 or the Republic Act No. 8371 is essential, requiring free, prior, and informed consent from the affected indigenous communities with meaningful consultations to respect cultural heritage and practices. Additionally, measures must align with the Philippine Clean Water Act or Republic Act No. 9275 to prevent water contamination. The design must also consider public safety, facility access, landscaping, and aesthetics, encouraging detention basins in landscaped areas for ease of maintenance and enhanced site aesthetics. A monitoring mechanism is required to ensure proper planning, construction, operation, and maintenance.
Good day, everyone. My name is Kian Raposan Jiusun, and I'm reporting for the part of design storms in relation to our report entitled Stormwater Management. And I'm going to discuss the pertaining details on what we need to understand when it comes to design storms. Let's proceed. Definition and significance. In civil engineering, it is important to note that in the context of stormwater management, designing such systems contributes to the possibility of preventing the consequences of prevalent flooding in particular places, especially those who have history of flood-related tragedies. In design storms, there are standards that are considered for designing and evaluating stormwater infrastructure. For example, local stormwater standards commonly call out the following storm events. And in this screen, as you can observe in the screen, we have several storm events ranging from 1 year, 2 year, 5 year storm event, 10 year storm event, 50, and eventually going up 100-year storm event. And how is it represent the design standards in comes to practicality? Let's say we design a stormwater stormwater design system in a 10-year storm event. And it is expected that this drainage design in this 10-year storm event are expected to at least function and be utilized a within 10 years only. That's how it uh this is how he interprets this 10-year storm event. And design storms are determined through the interpolation of several data which undergo statistical analysis and historical rain data, which will be then used for hydrological modeling of the most critical design scenarios for stormwater infrastructure. including flood control and water quality applications. Uh, when it comes to studying the behavior of flood behavior in a certain area, we need to gather and scour for data that we need to eventually come up with a possible solution. And like it said, we need rainfall data and uh, hydrological models, which we can use for statistical analysis. One good example of this is let's say a term of 10-year storm represents a rainfall event with a 10% probability of being equal or existing in any given year, meaning it is expected to return in within 10 years. In connection to what I have explained earlier about the 10-year storm event, this is a additional information about a context of a 10-year storm event design. That let me read it again. 10-year storm represents a rainfall event with a 10% probability of being equal or exceeding in any given year. Uh, it is expected to return within 10 days, 10 years rather. And for determining design storms for specific locations, we have appropriate local storm designs that are essential to the following. We have four. It is infrastructure design, urban planning, flood risk assessment, and water quality compliance. How these four factors, how these four factors eventually influences the design storms. First, we have the infrastructure design. We, as engineers, we are expected to know that infrastructure design is vital for providing a structural component of a certain facility, which can and eventually store floodwater, which can prevent that certain floodwater to cause several consequences if not managed properly. Uh, Infrastructure design includes drainage pipes, manholes, culverts, detention systems, and numerous other stormwater control measures or SCMs. Urban planning, important in more comprehensive urban planning to assess the implication of a new development in existing drainage systems. When it comes to urban planning, it is not just the design of the houses, streets, and other several infrastructures, high rises, high-rise buildings, but also the integration of stormwater designs. It is expected to note that when it comes to urban planning, we still need to mitigate the consequences of rainwater, and it can cause intense flood, because flood can also pose a significant threat, even though it is an urban location. And eventually, in urban location, in a uh, not so, let's say, maintained poor infrastructure and drainage design, which can cause water clogging and eventually can cause high water level in some residents, and which can cause a life-threatening consequences. Third is a flood risk assessment. Design storms help the engineers to assess the existing situation to look for possible problems that might have an implication on the new developed water design. So in determining the flood risk assessment, we can eventually envision how to approach the management. We can put signage on certain areas that are prone to flooding, and eventually designing storm water designs can be influenced in these factors. How we design our infrastructure based on what we understood provided by the flood risk assessment. Fourth is the water quality compliance. Other than existing standard, many have governing bodies which regulates and manages the implementation of water quality design storm. So that must be managed and treated with SCMs. So when it comes to designing, it is needless to say that in designing, we still need to consider existing standards that we need to follow, because when standards are the backbone of any controlled uh, controlled design when it comes to maintaining the structural integrity, the functionality, and eventually the overall standard which the government implemented through these standards through water quality compliance. In addition to determining design storm for specific locations, many jurisdictions has concerns on the reliability of historical rainfall data due to the fact that rainfall patterns and intensities are influenced by a wider range of factors that can directly impact the data we use. Also, the climate change has a direct impact on how we can use the weather patterns to predict its behavior, which ultimately produce data on stormwater rainfall. In addition to this, in urban drainage systems, some of them are oversized relative to the future storm events and prone to flooding. Okay, let's proceed in role in designing drainage and detention system. Water in general is a vital source of human consumption, but we still need to consider that water can still pose a significant threat to human living conditions, particularly when it can cause intense flooding in the street where drain systems are unlikely to be present. Without proper drainage analysis, the structure runs to the risk of potential problems, foundational damages, and in worst cases scenarios, erosion and even sinkholes. Water can contribute to the increase of annual precipitation, which, if not being noticed, can cause future problems. So, as you can see, water has if not so little, consequences if it's not being mitigated properly. And as for the last part, that involve designing drainage and detention system, how does poor drainage impact the paving? The existence of proper drainage systems can have several advantages which the community can benefit from. Water being collected in stormy scenarios adequate design can first keep the clients and employees safe, which the design and who are the owner of the designs we are designing into. Less presence of water in certain places can be safer for those who utilize public spaces. Second is to prevent erosion. Still water can cause the soil integrity to lessen and cannot prevent flooding, causing more severe consequences. And thirdly is to prevent warping. Asphalt absorbs a percentage of storm water, which can lead to bubbles or deformations. Over time, this impacts the integrity of roads and driveways. So that's it for my role, and thank you for listening.
Case studies and practical applications. So we have here first example of successful stormwater detention design. We have the Harris County Flood Control District in Texas, as you can see in the image here. So Harris County operates approximately 70 large detention basins across their country, designed to manage stormwater runoff effectively and reduce flood risk. So what it does is that these basins, these 70 large detention basins, can hold approximately billions of gallons of stormwater during heavy rains, functioning by temporarily storing stormwater runoff and then slowly releasing it back into nearby channels, thus effectively reducing the risk of flooding. So that's the first example. Okay, so we have the second example, the underground detention systems in urban areas. So many urban developments have adopted underground stormwater detention systems made from corrugated metal pipes, or CMP, as you can see in the image. So these systems allow for significant land savings by storing stormwater runoff below ground, so instead of using the space above. For instance, one project reported that using an underground system enabled them additional 206,000 square feet of office space, translating it into millions in potential revenues for developers. So that's example number 2. Okay, so let's proceed with the last example, precast concrete modular systems. So precast concrete modular systems are increasingly used for underground stormwater detention due to their efficiency in design and installation. A case study highlighted below shows how these systems can be used in various applications, showcasing their ability to meet stringent stormwater management requirements while minimizing land use. These systems not only provide effective storage, but also enhance flow mitigation capabilities. So that's the third example, the precast concrete modular systems. Okay, so the next slide, the lesson learned and the common challenges of the applications I've discussed. So let's go first with the lesson learned. We have 4. Number 1, importance of tailored designs. So each site has unique hydrological conditions and space constraints. So successful implementations often require customized designs that consider local rainfall patterns, soil types, and land use. Then we have number 2, integration with existing infrastructure. So new stormwater systems should integrate seamlessly with existing drainage infrastructure This is to avoid bottlenecks and ensure efficient runoff management. Then we have number 3. This is very crucial. Rainfall maintenance is crucial. Routine inspections and maintenance of detention systems are essential. This is to prevent clogging and system failures. And lastly, we have the education and training for engineers. So engineers need training specific to stormwater management, as principles differ from those used in wastewater design. So those are the 4 lessons learned from the applications I discussed. Okay, let's proceed with the common challenges faced when it comes to constructing a successful stormwater detention design. So we have here 5. Number 1, inadequate drainage infrastructure. This is very common in the Philippines. Many urban areas face challenges due to aging or insufficient drainage systems. Then we have number 2, high construction cost. The installation of large diameter pipes and complex modular systems can be cost prohibitive. Then we have number 3, climate change impacts. This is very understandable. Increased storm intensity due to climate change poses significant challenges for existing stormwater system design. Then we have number 4, hydraulic performance issues. Systems may not perform as expected if not properly designed for maximum flow conditions. And then lastly, number 5, environmental considerations. The potential for environmental stress cracking materials needs to be considered to ensure longevity and effectiveness under varying conditions. So those are the 5 common challenges. The next slide we have here the interactive problem solving exercise. So if you really wanted to understand the nuts and bolts in designing a successful stormwater detention, then you can do this exercise. The objective is simple. You just need to develop actionable solutions for common challenges faced in stormwater management projects. So from the examples I've discussed, you can list common challenges for those. So the materials needed are simply large paper and markers, or you can use digital collaboration tools such as Google Jamboard and use a digital writing tools. So that's for the interactive problem solving exercise. Summary and review. So let's go with the recap of the key concepts. So stormwater detention systems are vital for managing urban runoff, mitigating flooding, and improving water quality by temporarily storing and regulating flow. So that's the general idea of stormwater detention systems. Unlike retention systems focus on controlled release. Common facilities like dry ponds, wet pans, and underground storage, so those are discussed again, with designs tailored to factors like land use, rainfall patterns, and regulatory standards. So effective systems integrate components. So what are these components? We have inlets, outlets, and storage areas supported by runoff modeling tools. And then earlier I discussed the case studies. So the case studies showcase the importance of adaptable designs, community engagement, and proactive maintenance for long-term success of using stormwater detention designs. So lastly, let's discuss about the importance of holistic stormwater management. So holistic stormwater management integrates engineering, environmental, and community perspectives. This is to address urbanization and climate change challenges, which are the common challenges na face United today globally. Furthermore, it goes beyond flood mitigation by enhancing water quality, preserving habitats, and promoting sustainable urban growth. Holistic approach by balancing retention, detention, and site-specific needs, discussed earlier, while incorporating recreational and habitat features. It ensures resilience and public support. And today, through advancement of technology, advanced modeling tools, and insights from successful projects, drive adaptable solutions. This is to protect communities, infrastructures, and ecosystems. So that's how important holistic stormwater management is.
So that's will be all, and we are the group 2, and thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something about the design of stormwater detention, and that's it, and thank you and God bless. Bye.